in this world, what I've seen is that there's a tremendous amount of suffering. I don't believe we have to experience so much suffering on our path. That is a choice. Choosing either, okay, I'm going to suffer and I'm going to, keep reaching out to God in the process, or I'm going to really look at why I'm suffering and what the cause of that is, even on some of the more material levels, like my mind and my body. I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to be conscious about making changes in those areas of my life. Once the inquiry is activated, and once somebody is seeing really, wow, my choices really make a difference in life, and I am choosing the life that I'm living. There's that responsibility. I am experiencing the state of health because of choices I've made, or I am experiencing my state of mind because of choices. Once that's activated, then really there's no limit to the personal growth that's available.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining the latest episode of Devotees of Alachua. In this episode, I'm going to be hosting Vira. Vira is my neighboring friend who in the beginning of the previous year moved here with his wife and newborn child. For over a decade, Vira has coached, trained individuals, couples, families, and group of different diverse backgrounds how to live a conscious and truly fulfilling life. His approach meets the individual where they are at, and he assists them in discovering what is the most important thing in life for them and helps them to take steps towards that goal. He was also the president of the Bhakti Center in New York from 2015 into 2020. He hosts annual pilgrimage to India, retreats, and trainings in Ayurveda and Marma. Hare Krishnavira, thank you for joining the episode of this episode of Devotees of Alachua. I think we sort of simultaneously more or less made a transition from like big city life to Alachua County, which is kind of interesting. You moved here with your wife and newborn baby, Ramachandra. And I thought to give you the stage and share with my audience something that I think is very, very vital in like this day and age, how to like integrate spiritual life, material life, Krishna consciousness, spirituality through our occupation, through our swadharma, our propensity to serve. And this what attracted me, I think, specifically to interview you is I know you from the Ayurveda Retreat Center and the courses that you host around Ayurveda and Marma. And I thought to ask you, how did that relationship with that service started for you? How did you think about it? How it was integrated in your spiritual life, and what inspires you on the way? And yes.
Thank you so much, Ramachandra. Super grateful to be with you. I get to see you walking in the streets of downtown Alachua. We don't see too many people walking by. It's a little bit of a contrast from New York City. And you're one of those pilgrims. You're one of those friends that I get to see walking down the street. So always appreciate your company and your sangha, and to be with you today is a joy. So thank you. What I'm hearing you asking right now is, what led me to the practice of Ayurveda and Marma, and also what I've seen beneficial integrating the practice of Ayurveda with Bhakti, with spiritual life. I could just share briefly how I came to the practice. Was really it wasn't like a spontaneous pursuit. It was more on a request of a friend to help him develop his business. And it wasn't even really to do with studying Ayurveda or the lifestyle or offering treatments, etc. It was more really just to talk about business and talk about how to be effective at creating a business.
It was for a friend who was already doing his Ayurveda practice, and you were just helping him to solidify his approach to Ayurveda, not specifically your approach to Ayurveda.
Yeah, how to interact with his clients and how to just have a smooth experience in the business side of what he was doing as a teacher and as a coach and as a healer. And it was after a very short period of time that conversation evolved. His business was doing really well, and he needed support. He needed support with more therapists, with more practitioners. And so he invited me to come down to Sydney, Australia. And I had just, a job I was working had just expired. And it was like, yeah, the universe, it was Krishna conspiring to bring me on a journey into Ayurveda, and something I could have never imagined, and also something that has been so powerful and life transforming for me. So I ended up going to Sydney and studying with him for 2 years. I studied with him in Sydney and immediately started practicing and working with him. We went to LA, started a practice there, went to New York, started a practice there, had practice on both coasts for some time. And then I branched out and started my own practice. And yeah, so that's a little bit about how I got into it. There's so much more to that, but just keep it brief. And then how the practice of Ayurveda is integrated with Bhakti, really, I would say that
specifically personally with your spiritual life.
Yeah.
I think like, as I feel like we all, bring our unique individual human experience and integrating that through so many varieties of like either occupation or approaches that solidify our connection with God, or our connection to the love of God, Bhakti. And so in sort of in that mood, I'm curious about every individual devotee that I meet, especially the ones who really like stand out with their connection, with their service, and asking them to perhaps to share, to inspire others to make that firm connection.
Well, I mean, I'm a super passionate guy, so that's something that I think is there. It's part of my nature, I think, also, and part of my age, and just part of life being in the material world. And so practicing Ayurveda has been something that's really helped me to move more towards sattva. Practicing Ayurveda, having regularity with lifestyle, my daily practices and daily routines and self-care practices and pranayama and movement and diet and all the components of life, and including mindset, including not just the physical body being clean, but the mind being clean, has been that's been transformative in itself. And I feel like as time goes on, there's this physical purification process taking place on the gross physical and the subtle physical layers, which really supports for the spiritual practice of uncovering the nature of my soul, and beginning to more and more become present in life and choose in each moment to bring God into the equation. Whether it's a challenge I'm facing in life, or it's just a beautiful day, or it's time with my son, or it's washing the dishes, or it's being on this call with you right now.
Like, being present.
Yeah, being present and inviting God into the experience. And then from that space, just that invitation that, my Lord, you're with us right now, then to what I'm experiencing is that his magic is unfolding. It's more visible. Even in challenging situations, whatever the situation is, his will is more visible. And I really attribute so much of that. Of course, there is the main factor of that, I would say, is there's been a lot of grace in my life from really wonderful people, incredible teachers and friends and family that have surrounded me in my life and loved me and cared for me. I think that's the big wild card that even pushed me in any direction of spiritual life or practicing Ayurveda. And then aside from that, something that I've really taken a hold of and done for myself is I would say that it's practicing Ayurveda has been the most important component to really being able to steadily practice Bhakti, to steadily bring myself to any level of quality of practice, or gradual increase in quality of practice. Really is the lifestyle of Ayurveda is so transformative for that purpose.
Yeah, I guess like hearing you share like this passion you had in the beginning of your journey to coming to Ayurveda, connecting with really solid chunk of goodness in your heart and on your path towards transcendence, it kind of brings up a question for me in terms of spiritual life. How would you consider like sattva or goodness, like vital or in terms of like the how should I say it, the criteria to really jump into spiritual life? Is it really possible to do it without goodness, or how much really endeavor we should put in, first of all, being good to ourselves and good to others, and seeking transcendence?
It's a great question. Well, from what I've understood from my teachers and from studying Bhakti, goodness isn't a prerequisite. So being in sattva is not a prerequisite to connect with God's grace in our life. However, it's an incredibly supportive element that we could be connecting with God's grace and maybe, still in some lower modes, some lower states of consciousness, but continuing to reach out and call out to God, and we could experience God's grace and transformation. And when we read in Bhagavatam, Ajamil, the one of the most famous pastimes, he was living in total ignorance, and at the end of his life, he was able to not even remembering the Lord, but just calling out the name of the Lord, referring to his son, and he received that grace. He received that divine grace. So we see examples that sattva is not a prerequisite to attain God's grace. And at the same time, in this world, what I've seen is that there's a tremendous amount of suffering. I mean, I've gone through, like, I feel like in my life, I've experienced, we all have different versions of suffering, but I've experienced, a good amount of suffering in this world. And I don't believe we have to experience so much suffering on our path. That is a choice. And so depending on our nature and depending on the quality of life that we believe in and that we're desiring to live, I think that's an important factor in choosing either, okay, I'm going to suffer and I'm going to, keep reaching out to God in the process, or I'm going to really look at why I'm suffering and what the cause of that is, even on some of the more material levels, like my mind and my body. I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to be conscious about making changes in those areas of my life. And what I could see is that for me, it's like, I want to do that because I want to show up at a higher and higher level in my service. If my physical body's ailing, then it affects me. Like I'm affected by suffering. There's some people that aren't as affected, but if my body is ailing, then definitely I'm not going to, it's much more challenging for me to show up and serve and be there for others and hold space for others. If my mind is, going, through the limiting beliefs and more dark feelings and thoughts, and I'm not addressing those, then they just interfere with being able to be with God and be with another human being in the present moment. So I find
I think there's like an analogy like that if your boat is rocking, you cannot sail, you cannot catch the wind and go to your destination. And our body, including the mind, our psychological and physical state, it's something that's always important to take consideration. Like even different not even, but I heard that from we recently joined Nalini Kanta's New Year's celebration, and he quite often would mention that Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he would always ask his disciples, like, how is your health? How are you doing? How is your wife? How are your children? And nothing is what I get from that is like as we are engaging our body, engaging our mind in the service of God. So nothing should be underestimated in its importance. The vehicle.
Absolutely, I love that. Srila Prabhupada is so personal, and I see that mature devotees, mature lovers of God, you can see they're so personal. They're not callous to material suffering or the material needs in life. They're so compassionate.
Yes,
so compassionate. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry about that.
Okay, we can edit it out.
Yeah.
It brings up another sort of like inquiry, and also an invitation, I guess, to my audience to like inquire more about what you do and the services that you are offering, as understood from my association with you, and the introduction that you shared with us, that you help people, you help individuals to find that balance, to find that soothing point, that they can really understand what's happening for them materially, psychologically, subtly. And how's been your experience with that in terms of your clients seeking further transcendence? Is it something that would come naturally from, you know, developing awareness around health, lifestyle, mental, psychological state?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's a progression. At least that what I've seen is that people that I work with oftentimes will come for some physical ailment or some mental imbalance, something they're struggling with, or something they're struggling with in a relationship, some version of that, or they're not feeling fulfilled in their work and their purpose. And whatever angle they come into, and oftentimes physical, is that when they experience the transformation physically, then they're interested. They're just naturally interested to know what else is available, what more is possible. If that chronic pain in my back, or that digestive imbalance, or those headaches, or whatever it was, like, wow, in just such a short period of time, from such simple practices and awareness, that was able to change and transform in such a powerful way. And what else is possible? What else can I receive? And so I've seen it to be just a natural progression, that once the inquiry is activated, and once somebody is seeing, really, wow, my choices really make a difference in life, and I am choosing the life that I'm living. There's that responsibility. I am experiencing the state of health because of choices I've made, or I am experiencing my state of mind because of choices. Once that's activated, then really there's no limit to the personal growth that's available. And what I see is it's so natural for people to take those next steps, and to start to inquire more deeply what the purpose of life is, and what so to inquire in life's deeper questions, for sure. So
yeah,
I
see
that as natural, for sure. Yeah, it's natural. And that's something that I love about the work, is that, I mean, like I was living in New York for just about 10 years just now, and then Los Angeles before that, Sydney, Dallas before that, all big cities. And I love connecting with people, and I love connecting with people where they're at. I love that. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. Like, I can connect with anybody where they're at. You know, now I'm in Alachua, it's a different setting, but just connect with people where they're at, and to start to feel that connection form. And when there's some connection between myself and another human, it's the most fulfilling experience that I have in my life. I'm connecting with another human being, and I know that God's with us. I know that we've come together for some specific purpose and some reason. And, you know, maybe it's not so overt and clear, but there's a knowingness, there's a sense that there's a purpose, there's a deeper purpose behind what's happening. That's God's will unfolding. And so to be able to meet somebody where they're at, and to offer value to them where they're at, the relationship develops. You know, and that's what I saw in New York, is that meeting so many incredible people, that if I was just to come in right off the bat, like, all right, you know, we're talking about spiritual life, there's a disconnect, because what's most important to them is they're struggling in a relationship right now. What's most important to them is their health is poor, or their mind is really giving them difficulties. And so to be able to meet somebody in that space, to support them in that space, to experience transformation, then the relationship develops, and just so many beautiful things come from
growth and spiritual growth naturally.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Through that love and trust that you able to create with your
through that sweet love, baby.
Feeling it.
Me too.
Yeah, and I'll be glad to link down below ways that you can reach out to Vira and either reach out for consultations, and I guess also different courses are coming up, and either in the Bhakti through the Bhakti Center in New York online, and the Ayurveda Retreat Center here in Alachua. What is the next program? Which program are you offering next?
We're so right now we got a few programs that are coming up. We have a 100-hour training. It's called Foundations of Ayurveda, and really it's bringing the principles and the practices, the lifestyle of Ayurveda, bringing that to life in our own daily lives. And then from there, then we go into a 200-hour training, which is more about, it's definitely still about personal self-transformation, but it's also learning how to share, learning the language, getting comfortable holding space for others, and beginning to share the wisdom and the principles of Ayurveda to help others transform their lives, help family and friends or clients, for many people that have practices and want to develop those further. And yeah, and then there's so many good things happening. You can keep in touch with us online. We're going to be putting more content out on social media, and put the links below so you can stay connected with us.
Yes, please do. I'm going to link down below all the information. And yeah, thank you so much, Vira, for your time and sharing your love in your process and in what you do in terms of the spiritual growth that you offer to so many individuals. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ramachandra. So grateful for your time, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share.